Hi, my name's Alex, pronouns are they, them. I'm a fourth year French and Italian student and I'm the undergraduate school rep for the School of Literatures, Languages and Cultures. I'm running to be your Vice President Education because I believe that the university is prioritising its research and its commercial aims over the needs and its responsibilities to its students.
Hi, I'm Carl Harper and I'm running for your VP Education this year. I'm a fourth year in Sustainable Development with a pathway in Sociology, and I have quite a bit of experience in student life. I'm a PALS leader and I have been going on for 2 years now. I was my class representative for Sustainable Development in my third year, and I've had some experiences organising events that gained funding from USA. My main manifesto points regard fostering an inclusive and accessible learning environment, ensuring that there's an element of transparency regarding structural changes to the way we learn and deal with conflict, and the third is regarding fostering cross-disciplinary collaboration. Thank you.
Hi, I'm Dia Kaur. I'm a second year linguistics and English language student, and I'm looking to be your next VP Education. As an international student in my last 2 years at the university, I've come to recognize that we come to uni with a lot of expectations, and so many of them are left unfulfilled. In my roles as an Ed Help assistant, as a Welcome Week volunteer, as an Open Day helper, I have taken every chance I've got to interact with you as a student body, hear what you have to say, and work towards enhancing your student experience. As a VP Education, I want to work tirelessly to improve your experience at the university and make sure that every decision, every reform at the university reflects what you want. I want to center my campaign around increasing opportunities for students, increasing financial assistance for you, exam support, greater inclusion. Thank you.
Hi, my name is Naila Tariq and I'm a master's student studying at the Edinburgh Futures Institute doing the Narrative Futures program. I'm running for the Vice President of Education Sabbatical Officer position.
Hi, I'm Sam Callum, my pronouns are they, them, and I'm running for Vice President Education. So the areas that I'm going to focus on if I'm elected are accountability. So I think the university really needs to be held accountable when our needs aren't being met, and I really want to sort of chase that up if it isn't happening, and one of the ways we can do that is through really strengthening the complaints process and making sure that even academic appeals are more streamlined and easier for students to access. Particularly a lot of processes to do with assessment and feedback aren't clear enough, aren't transparent enough, and I want to push for that to be more clear so that all students understand what board examiners are, what that process is about, like ratifying grades and things, and how we can actually have good special circumstances and make sure that we're supported properly during our studies, and also focusing on learning adjustments and making sure that all students that need them can access them.
I think my first point here is that I absolutely stand with our striking workers. I myself personally am a UCU member, as any student of this university can also choose to be. I've been heavily involved with organising the picket lines and the other apparatus around the strikes, and I am vehemently opposed to the same things as the UCU, the increased casualisation of roles at this university, fixed term contracts, a real decrease in pay, and these all have knock-on effects to you as a student. And at the end of the day, our goals are aligned. The university's management really likes to pit us against each other and to blame the striking workers for your struggles, whereas really it is the university and the university management that has the power to resolve this dispute and improve your student experience. However, I think it's really important to recognise the pragmatics of this situation as well. At the end of the day, all of us are here to receive a degree and move on to the working world in most cases. So I think it's really important that when there is strike action, we should adjust assessment to make it fair to every student that has been affected by strike action. And I think that the redistribution of some of the universities saved resources, as they frame it, into things like the Learning Opportunity Fund are a great first step, but I'd like to see much, much more in this area.
Well, I know there can be lots of frustration regarding strikes in this time, as lots of learning has been lost to it. We are living in optimistic times. The UCU has announced that there have been substantial progress in regards to strike negotiations, especially regarding pensions. I think that's important. We need to encourage negotiation. As VP Ed, what I would do is I would take it on myself to, advocate for the UCU's demands. But also I would want to stay away from methods that formalize striking as a part of the university experience, because that is what is fundamentally making striking more intense, the fact that it just gets formalized in the university system. One way we're doing this is through the Learning Opportunity Fund. While it looks very optimistic, students getting money back for the time they lose to strikes, on condition, because it's not money, it's workshops and stuff like that. It is just a way to formalize striking into the university system, so the university doesn't lose anything, but lecturers do. Ultimately, that money comes from the pay they lose, and I don't think that's fair. I think that money should come from somewhere else, and in order to make sure that striking stops and we get a wholesome learning experience and they are properly remunerated, we'd have to change the way these things are funded.
Over the last 2 years, I've first-hand experienced that there's been so many strikes here at the university. And while obviously they're a detriment to the students in terms of the loss of the core tuition fees that we're paying, I fully support the strikes because I fully stand for the issues that are being raised. They're all very important issues. And while some of us may not see it at first glance, they are issues that also affect us as students. If our tutors, if our professors are not getting paid the right amount, they're not able to put in the right efforts to deliver us the education that we deserve. If you just look at the numbers, fourth-year international students have lost over £9,000 in terms of tuition because of the strike action. I don't say we stop the strike action until we give the professors, the tutors, the academic staff what they deserve. But we need to make these strikes more effective. One way to do this is perhaps by making sure that the UCU strikes also work with the unison strikes, so that if there's a standstill, everything comes to a standstill, so things are genuinely being impacted. Thankfully, the current status of negotiations is going well. The strikes have been suspended at this point, and I only hope that this gets better going ahead, and we are looking at a brighter future for us as students and for the entire academic faculty across the country. Thank you.
When it comes to the strike action, there are two priorities for me. One is ensuring that demands are met on behalf of the staff, but also ensuring that there's as little disruption as possible to the student experience. Naturally, that would mean working quite closely with both the UCU, University of Edinburgh, and the students to figure out the best compromise that would ensure as little disruption as possible to class time, while also ensuring that the security and safety and ongoing work experience for the staff at the University of Edinburgh are still a priority.
So the best way to resolve industrial action is really to work with the members of UCU and really go down to picket lines and show support. It really is the best way to sort of resolve action, is to show the sort of disruption that's happening to the student body and make that really clear to senior leadership that it's not acceptable to have that many days of our learning and teaching missed. I think particularly as well, the current climate of industrial action, it's really important that we all play our part in sort of lobbying against not just the university but the government as well in sort of anti-strike legislation. So that's something that I'm really going to push for if I am elected again. I think that there are just basic needs that aren't being met by both students and staff, and as well our postgrad research students, so our PhD students, are also staff for many people, like they're tutors as well, or they have research requirements, and a lot of those students aren't getting the sort of basic rights that they would have if they were staff, so that's also something that I would be prioritising. It's also really important to sort of keep that relationship with senior leadership going, so working to make sure that there are concessions put in place for people that need them, or in special circumstances where, like for accreditation, you might really need to have a lab or a lecture to take place, so that's also something that I'll be focusing on this year.
I think the Curriculum Transformation Project is a really vital opportunity for us now to shape the future of the curriculum at Edinburgh University, and particularly to defend it against the sort of rhetoric we're seeing in Westminster at the moment about a heavy prioritisation of STEM over the arts. Obviously, I'm somewhat biased already, coming from an art subject, but I've already been working with the Curriculum Transformation Project through my current role as the undergrad school rep for languages, literatures and cultures, and I've found that already the university is heavily underlining buzzwords, AI, computational this, which is a very important part of the curriculum, but shouldn't be the only part. And this curriculum, the university has said it wants it to last 7 to 10 years. So I think it's really important that we act now to defend every part of the curriculum that has value to us, not that just has value to the free market.
To my knowledge, the Curriculum Transformation Project is concerning changes in choice and, responding to the need to decolonize in queer curriculums that has been, asked of the university for a long time. And it's intended to be once in a generation, but it shouldn't be. The context we're responding to constantly changes with different political issues, ethical requirements. So I would want to have a democratic, open platform that encourages changes to the curriculum that aren't just once in a generation. I personally think that given that this idea of change is structuring course choice and stuff like that, is also going to come alongside changes to the support model and the special circumstances and extension model, which is changing, but the university hasn't told us that. And if you do try and access any kind of changes that are happening to it in some kind of document form, it's not given to you. At the bottom of the extensions page, there is a tab that has access to it, but students can't access it. It's locked. As my platform, I'd want it to be very, very, transparent. I want students to know these changes are happening, because when you're put in those situations when you have to deal with them, that's when those changes start having, ramifications. I want a decolonization of the curriculum to be an ongoing thing.
With the current curriculum transformation project underway, I feel there's no better time for a person like me to step in and look over the transformation and make big changes towards an experience that is going to impact the student body across the university. The first thing that I really appreciate about this project is that students are involved with the committee, and I feel it's super important that the feedback of the students is taken into consideration, because after all, the education is being delivered to the students. A big priority has to be decolonizing the curriculum. That has to go across the board, across different degree levels. That's something that we have to put super minute consideration into, because we have to understand the privilege we're coming from, and that's something we really need to counter. We also need to make sure that the COVID curriculum, the recorded videos, they're being used in a proper manner. It shouldn't just be using recorded videos to replace in-person lectures, and they have to be made available to accommodate people with different learning styles. But I strongly believe that they have to be a supplement rather than a total replacement. Again, I do recognize the value that 2023 is the year of big changes, and I really do want to make sure that these changes work towards the betterment of everyone across the university.
When it comes to the Curriculum Transformation Project, my main priority is really ensuring that whatever changes are made to the curriculum are reflective of the actual student and staff experience at the University of Edinburgh. Also, a major priority as well is ensuring there's enough flexibility within the curriculum to ensure that we're continuously able to adapt to the changing nature of the world, the way that knowledge transfer works, as well as the job market, and also ensuring that at the practical, on-the-ground level, the curriculum is applicable and is actually able to be quickly translated into the real-world experience.
So for curriculum transformation, one of the things that I'll be focusing on is really getting the basics right. So there are lots of things at the moment with our curriculum that just they're not really working. So there are issues with people progressing, and if they're sort of stuck in their subject areas. I think that really mapping out a student's journey and making sure that people have access to make mistakes and really like learn while they're at university instead of being on sort of prescribed routes is really crucial. So one of the things that is sort of missing at the moment is sort of access to current research, particularly in the sort of science subjects. You're lucky if in your first or second year you see anything sort of current, and I think that's something that we're really missing out on. So I think everyone should be able to access things to do current with sustainability, with climate action, and I think as well a lot of our curriculum at present has a lot of sort of entrenched like Western biases. We're lucky if you have a reading list that isn't all from the UK or even all from Scotland in some cases. I think we're missing out on what the world has to offer. The university often calls itself a global institution, but I think that it needs to reflect that in everything it does. We rely on our international students and should give them space to sort of learn as well. So decolonising the curriculum is also going to be a priority.
Hidden course costs are a really big problem across the university. This question has highlighted particularly those in vocational degree programs, but it's important to realise that across the entire university we're seeing increased costs in textbooks and other necessary materials, especially subjects now that require specific software programs, that require specific computational hardware to be bought in order to use those. My manifesto proposal, and something I'm really passionate about, is a one-stop shop where you can search your degree program and your specific courses and see your hidden course costs for each particular course and an estimated cost for your degree overall. But more importantly than that, not just exposing the costs, I think it's really important that every student has the same opportunity to study anything they want to within this university. So I would propose a specific bursary for hidden course costs, which can be used to purchase those materials and make any course at this university accessible to any student who's eligible and wishes to take it.
In the current cost of living crisis, hidden course costs can be really financially straining on students. I tried to address this in my manifesto, partially through trying to adapt to the system of PALS, or the PALS model, more to be like law PALS. To my knowledge, they get a honorarium for the work they contribute. This is in line with that sentiment. However, there are many vocational courses such as nursing and arguably like the arts that I know will either not be remunerated for their work or there are expected costs. The arts deal with this through a tool library, but the use of it is conditional. If you use a bit of paint, you'll be charged a bit, and it's very underfunded to my knowledge. I don't think that's acceptable. There is no reason why somebody in an arts degree should do better off in that degree just because they have a bit more money. Additionally, I know that lots of student nurses, if they're Scottish, they will receive a bursary, but this is not always the case, especially for internationals and Europeans. I think there should be financial help for students who are expected to take placement when they're not paid for really working, especially after we just got out of COVID and they were contributing towards that. And it is the university's responsibility. How I'm going to do that, I will figure out, but it is important, especially to safeguard international students.
I'm an international student. I pay thousands of pounds for university education, and even those small charges that add up for printing, for buying supplies for painting class, they all add up and make this entire experience so much more expensive. And we need to deal with that. I sympathize with the current efforts being taken to combat the hidden charges and make university more affordable for students. And that's one of my core points going forward as a VP education. In the long run, I would love for those additional costs to be included in the tuition fee that we pay upfront. On a shorter term though, I would really like to establish a fund, much like the Student Opportunity Fund or the Engagement Fund that we have, that would allow students, especially in vocational degrees, to cover those additional costs that they require to engage with their studies on a deep and proper level. It's not just about additional services that we need, like buying a supplementary book. Those are core aspects of your degree, and I genuinely feel that that's something a tuition should cover. And I would really like to take that as a long-term goal. It's not just about these supplies, but it's also about stuff like print credit. For people who have to print out lecture notes, that's something that should be included, as well as transportation costs to satellite campuses.
When it comes to hidden course costs, I'm a big advocate for transparency. So my first priority would be to really understand what these costs are, where they're coming from, and then communicating that back to the student population. And then working with both students and staff in order to ensure that we can make these courses a lot more accessible and figure out a compromise between cost and value.
So hidden course costs are especially a problem in programs like ECA, so College of Art, and also research students as well sometimes have to pay costs for lab equipment, which just isn't really acceptable. So I actually think that we should be lobbying the university for a specific fund that covers course costs and expenses, so that students don't have to claim it back after the fact, but have access to funds when they need them. Particularly, like our postgrad students have like conferences that they have to go to as part of their course requirement, but this isn't covered until after the fact if they claim the expenses. So our hardship fund at present is just not accessible enough for students, so I think that we do need a separate fund that can cover specifically hidden course costs, so that's something that I'll be lobbying for this year.